welcome back. Now today I'm going to be in the little purple potting shed and I'm making up one of my favourite all-time treats, which just so happen to be 3 of my favourite all-time things. So today I'll be making some rhubarb crumble cake. So we are back in the little purple potting shed and it's looking a little bit full up at the moment because I have lots of herbs and flowers drying on the rack which is hanging from the ceiling, but because my shed is only 6x4 it's a little bit full up. And not that I'm complaining because I'm drying some lovely lemon balm and some chamomile and my allium heads and it looks quite pretty actually, but it's just a little bit full. But the reason why we are here today is to make some rhubarb crumble cake. Now I actually made this for my dad for the first time last year for a Father's Day treat and it went down a storm and it's now officially one of my favourite things to make. I mean, I love rhubarb, I love crumble, and most of all, I love cake. So we're combining all 3 of those today to make this recipe. Now it's very, very easy to make, but one of the main ingredients you need is rhubarb. Now I have 3 rhubarb crowns on my allotment. However, one of them is still rather young and I don't want to disturb it yet. And the other 2 were moved last autumn. So what I want to do is leave them be for this year and let all the energy go back into the crown. So I wasn't going to pick any this year. And luckily for me, one of my lovely allotment neighbours, she she inherited a really huge rhubarb crown on her plot when she got it, I don't know how many years ago. And she doesn't like rhubarb, so she kindly said to me and my dad that if we wanted any rhubarb, we could help ourselves to the rhubarb on her plot, which was really nice of her. And she has really nice rhubarb. So I've picked 2 sticks. You don't actually need much for this recipe, but oh, I love rhubarb so much. So let's just go through the ingredients. Now to make your rhubarb crumble cake, you will need 100 grams of butter, 100 grams of caster sugar, and 100 grams of self-raising flour. You'll also need 2 eggs and 225 grams of rhubarb, which has been cut into 1-inch chunks. For the crumble topping, you will need 50 grams of butter, 75 grams of plain flour, and 25 grams of caster sugar. Now this cake will feed roughly 6 people and it takes about 45 minutes to cook in the oven. But like I said, it's a very, very simple recipe and it's one of my favourites. Now for the topping, I actually made mine up last night and placed it in the fridge because I don't have a fridge on the allotment. We don't have any electricity or anything on the allotment. So I made this up last night to save a bit of time. But all you need to do is rub all your ingredients, rub the butter, the flour and the sugar. Rub it all together so it just resembles fine breadcrumbs and then place it in the fridge. So that's been in the fridge all last night. So that's already done. But one of the first things I'm going to do today is preheat the oven. I don't use my little oven very often. It does scare me a little bit when I have to light it. Take that out, we don't need them today, although I suppose you probably could make smaller versions of these. Right. Come on. There we go. So yes, preheat your oven to gas mark 5 or 180 Celsius. So the oven's preheated, I've done my crumble mix. Now what I need to do is chop the rhubarb up. So I cleaned this just under the tap. It obviously wasn't too dirty, but just to get rid of any nasties, just in case there were any on there. I've got a sharper knife this time as well. So just cut your rhubarb into roughly 1-inch chunks. Now you need roughly 225 grams of rhubarb, but what you'll be doing is you'll be laying them on top of your cake mixture. So as long as you've got enough to cover your cake tin, then it'll be perfectly fine. So let's just place these into a bowl. And obviously any rhubarb you don't use, you could stew or add it to a rhubarb crumble or pop it in a little jar of gin or something and make some rhubarb gin. I think this rhubarb is probably going to be too much, but we won't let any go to waste. Now this rhubarb stalk is a little bit thicker, actually it's really, really thick. So I'm cutting it a little bit smaller. Let's get some of that red. I cannot wait for the day until my rhubarb crowns are humongous, because you can make rhubarb wine and oh, cannot wait. So I just put that bit of rhubarb out there for a while and we'll get on with making the cake mixture. Now again, I have been really prepared this time and I have measured all my ingredients out beforehand. So you want to, actually, where's my cake tin? I'm going to grease my cake tin first because I popped in a little bit of extra butter to grease the cake tin with, so I don't want to use all the butter of the cake mixture and then think, oh, I didn't grease my tin. So you just need an 8-inch or 20-centimetre round deep cake tin. I always use this one for my rhubarb cake. I think I just like the colour. Right, so that's the cake tin greased. So I can use all the butter now. So place your 100 grams of butter into your bowl, along with your 100 grams of caster sugar. And you just want to cream them together so it makes a nice light fluffy mixture. I haven't made a cake in absolutely ages. But I know at home I've got one of those hand whisks so it makes life a little bit easier. But of course there's no electricity up here. Well, it's nice to do things by hand. And it doesn't take too long at all. So just cream it together so it's nice and light and fluffy. think that's about done now. And then you want to beat in the 2 eggs. So I'll do these one at a time. So that's 1 egg. Now at this stage you're probably thinking there's not actually that much cake mixture, but because you're adding your layer of rhubarb and then you've obviously got your layer of crumble as well, it all adds up. And of course you're using self-raising flour in the cake mixture, so it will rise a little bit as well. Ah, there's the other egg. And of course it would be nice to use eggs laid by your own chickens, but I don't have any chickens. I know quite a few people have asked if I'm still getting chickens, but there's no time for me to look after chickens, and I know I was going to get some, but I'm sort of glad that I didn't, because it would have been impossible. It would have been completely impossible with the work schedule and going to Wales and everything. So in hindsight, I think it was quite a good idea that I didn't get the chickens, even though I really, really wanted some. But you never know what the future holds. Hopefully I'll get chickens one day. So once that's all beaten together, you just want to add your self-raising flour. Again, everything's been measured out. It makes life so much more easier. So that's 100 grams of self-raising flour. Oh, I'll just swap over to my metal spoon. And then just gently fold your flour into the mixture. I don't know if it's just me, but I really love raw cake mixture. I'm not sure if you're supposed to eat it, but one of the best things about making cakes is licking out the bowl. It always tastes so nice, and I have really fond memories of when I was younger, of just licking out the cake bowl. And even as an adult now, still have to do it. So just make sure all the flour has been folded in. So that's done. So you need to get your greased cake tin. Pour your cake mixture into the tin. There's never enough room to put anything. I need a bigger shed. So just level that off in your cake tin. As best as you can. Things don't need to be entirely perfect. A little bit for eating later on. And then get your rhubarb. I'm going to use the smaller bits first. I probably should have picked smaller stalks. And then just lay your rhubarb on top of the cake mixture. You can do pretty patterns or just put it on however you want. I'm quite a perfectionist, so I have to do a pretty pattern. It's like built into me. Oh, there's not going to be enough of these straight ones. Right, let's put some of these around the centre. And a couple of these here. Oh, let's place one in the centre. There. So once that's covered with rhubarb, get your, oh actually, that's it. Some tea stuck to it. Sprinkle the top of your rhubarb. If I can get my sugar tub open. Let's get a clean spoon as well. Oh, up there. You just want to sprinkle a little bit of sugar on top of your rhubarb, because rhubarb can be quite sharp. So a little bit of sugar will just make it a little bit sweeter. And then you can put your crumble mix over the top. Don't know if this is going to come out in one block or... Ooh! Oh, I lost a bit. And just spread it over roughly. Let's put some of that over there. So you've got a nice little bit of crumble on top. And then that is done. And all you need to do is place that into the centre of your oven, which has been preheated. Oh, it's nice and warm. Put that in your oven for about 45 to 55 minutes until it's golden brown and firm to touch. So while that's in the oven, I'm going to do a little bit of early morning weeding so the sun can kill off some of those weeds. I'm also going to sow some more radish because quite a lot of the radish bolted in the radish tank. So I'm going to sow some more radish and just wait for that to cook. Been about 45 minutes now and it looks about ready, so I'm going to take it out because my oven gets really hot. There's only basically two settings, really hot or not very hot. There's not really an in-between, so 45 minutes seems about perfect for that. I forgot to bring some oven gloves up with me today, so I'm having to use my jacket. So let's take this out. Oh, it looks so good. The shed smells absolutely divine. And oh, it looks amazing. Now I'm going to let this cool down a little bit because obviously it's very, very hot having just come from the oven, but it is actually best served warm. I really, really like it served warm, and it's especially nice with ice cream, custard, or just thick cream, or even evaporated milk. It's really, really nice with, but obviously you can eat it cold just as a normal cake, but I just prefer it warm with either of what I've just said. There's so many possibilities of what you could eat with it. It's really, really delicious. But I'm going to let it cool down for a little bit. I'm going to pour myself a cup of chamomile tea and just enjoy the view for a little bit. I didn't actually sow any radish seed because the tank is infested with ants, so I'm going to look into that a little bit more before I sow any more radish seed. But for now, I'm just going to let this cool. And then I'm going to serve myself up a slice for breakfast before heading home to do some work. But I really hope you enjoyed this recipe and enjoyed the video. You can find the full recipe over on the blog as well if you want it in written form. But yeah, if you've got some rhubarb, go out and try it. I'm sure you'll be addicted to it as much as I am. But that's about it for now. So thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.